Hi, Jay from Euglycemia here. Have you ever actually read the manufacturer's recommendations for what you should do with your insulin? Well, today I did, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about what to do with your insulin when you hit the road. Please follow along. It should be noted that in this video, I am expressing my opinion and what I have done through past experience and lots of travel using insulin. It may be worthwhile to note that I have never been in DKA aside from my initial diagnosis. So really the first step in understanding what to do with insulin when you travel, just understand what is insulin in the first place. Insulin is a peptide, insulin is a protein, insulin is a hormone. So really when I think of insulin, I think about an egg. Liquid protein, insulin, liquid protein. And it amazes people that in the entire developing world, eggs are always left at room temperature. And really, you could make the argument that insulin is probably way more safe at room temperature than what we originally think. So what do the manufacturers actually say about the insulin that they produce? I actually dug out the literature from one of the bottles. For Humalog, it says that pens should be stored in the refrigerator between 36 and 46 degrees Fahrenheit or 2 and 8 degrees Celsius. And if you're currently using a pen, it can be stored below 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Now in my mind, when I read 86, I round up to 90. They say straight up, do not use it if it's been frozen. So that's a pretty clear line in the sand for me. It says nothing about exposure to high heat. It does not say if your insulin has been above 110 degrees for X amount of hours, do not use it. It doesn't say anything like that. So when I travel, here's kind of the whole point of the video. When I travel, I don't worry about it very much. I use common sense and I avoid any extreme environment for my insulin, but I don't worry that much. You know, a couple things I wouldn't do. I would not leave my insulin in a car with the windows up for a prolonged period of time. In that situation, I would just figure out a way to keep my insulin on my body or in my bag and just kind of roll with it. Another thing I wouldn't do, we tend to keep things in black bags with medical equipment. And you've seen my everyday carry black bag. I would not leave my insulin in that indirect sunshine. There have been a couple of instances, one of which was on a bus in Guatemala. We were in a traffic jam, we were there for hours, and the sun was beating down, and I really think the interior temperature of that bus was well above 100 degrees, maybe 110. As usual, when I travel, I had my insulin on my body. So I took water from my canteen, I poured it on a bandana, and I wrapped the insulin in the bandana. So that is just going to work the same way as when you sweat. The water is going to evaporate, thus cooling the insulin. Another time that really, to me, demonstrates the resilience of insulin is in Guatemala. And Mom, you know, one of the only people that watches my channel, you haven't heard this story, so, you know, sorry. She actually sent my insulin to a team of docs that was coming down to help out in our clinic. And we went and we picked him up at the airport in Guatemala City, and coming back from the city, it was an insane 3-hour drive. I had this old Isuzu Trooper with a stick, and we had to fly downhill just in order to make it up the next one. I had this little 4-cylinder engine. Loved the car, but anyways, so the ride back was super grueling. And when I got back, I thought that I handled my insulin correctly and I took it out and put it in the fridge, but turns out I didn't. It sat all night and then the entire next day in a cooler, in the sunshine, kind of in like the courtyard of the med clinic. And when I discovered it, I was just horrified. I was sure that all of my insulin was ruined. I was gonna have to cancel my trip and come home. You know, but I just took it out and threw it in the fridge, and it worked fine. I had 0 blood sugar problems. In my world, when I travel, it is not at the forefront of my mind. Yes, you have to plan a bit. Yes, you have to accommodate and find a way to avoid extreme temperatures, but I've been able to shoestring on a budget, stay in hostels, sleep in buses, and you know, just it hasn't been a problem for me. Okay, so let's imagine you like to travel the way I do, on a shoestring and a prayer, and you want to plan a trip to a country. You're planning on staying a month there. So, you know, here we have... Alright, let's say you're going to Michigan, my home state. There's me. Oh, in the UP. That's the Upper Peninsula, not a submarine. So if I was planning on going to Michigan, let's say I'm going to go and stay for a month. I like to stay in hostels. I like to shoestring it. Let's say you fly into Lansing. I would walk into a hostel and ask if they allow bag storage. It's usually just a couple bucks. They have a locked room that you can store your bags in. I would ask them, is it okay if I put my insulin in the refrigerator? I've never had anybody tell me no, ever. So I would put in a couple baggies. I would write a note saying, hey, this is like life-saving drugs, please don't mess with it. And then I would like try to tuck it somewhere, you know, butter compartment is always key. But I would try to like kind of tuck it out of the way. One time I duct taped it to the side of the inside of the refrigerator. And I've never had it lost. I've never had any problem with it. So if let's say I'm going to Michigan, I would then make Lansing my home base. Then I would do a couple different trips. I would maybe do a 2-week long trip all through the Upper Peninsula. Then I'd come back, maybe do Metro D. Then I'd come back, maybe do Grand Rapids area. I would plan my trips in loops, coming back to one kind of central area in order to stock back up. Because when I'm traveling, I'm not carrying 6 months worth of diabetic equipment with me. I'd fuel up for a couple weeks, be gone, come back, and then take extra loot. Another time I was down at a resort in Florida, dead of summer in August. It was so hot. There was no way I could leave my insulin in the car. There's also no way I was paying $400 a night for a hotel room just for me. So I went to the resort where the wedding was, and I just kind of said, look, I'm not staying here. I was actually sleeping at the end of the dock in my hammock. But I said, look, do you mind if I put my insulin in one of the refrigerators? And they were so gracious and they were so kind, and there was absolutely no problem. And I really believe that with just a little bit of planning and a little bit of forethought and maybe the request of a favor, there's absolutely no problem in storing your insulin. Yeah, Dexcom. I don't know if you can hear Dexcom in the back yelling at me. I had to redo my site this morning. Y'all get the weirdest look when people watch you clean your finger off after you check your blood sugar? Alright, 114, not bad. Let's go ahead and calibrate all this. I think I'm about to be called out for not checking my sugar twice. You know what's funny about that though? I don't check my sugar twice, but I never put in the same number. I'm gonna get a call from Dexcom. Yeah, hi Jay, we've noticed that you're probably faking your number inputs, and we'd like to talk to you about that. So, yeah, alright, well, there we go. Dexcom police, sorry, I just checked it once. So let's talk about some ways to store your insulin when you travel. Maybe some other options you might utilize. The Frio envelopes that you can put your insulin in, douse in water, and then just allow the envelope to cool the insulin. I've used them, and I actually really liked it. If I was heading out on the road and I didn't really know what I was going to do with my insulin, I would do that. Now, if you don't have one of those, or you find yourself in an emergency, just remember what I did in that bus. I just got a rag, I dipped it in water, wrapped my insulin in it, and that will have a cooling effect on your insulin. Other options, battery-powered coolers. If you want to go through the trouble and recharge the battery, this would probably be somewhere if you were staying in a hotel every night and you could kind of have that cooler and recharge it, great. That's not the way I travel. I don't go and stay at resorts. I don't go and stay hotel to hotel. I like to sleep on buses and trains and shoestring it. So if that's the type of traveling you're doing and you can recharge the batteries and or plug the fridge in at every stop, great. I think that is a really good option. Another time I saw on one of the Facebook groups, a girl used one of those heavily insulated Yeti kind of tumblers with the screw cap on it. I think that's a good idea. I wouldn't put anything frozen in there though, and I'd make sure that there's no way for the insulin to come in contact with ice or anything that could potentially freeze it and potentially ruin the insulin. So that pretty much wraps up the way I view insulin and the way I travel with insulin. If you have any other questions, please feel free to leave a comment below and I will absolutely get back to you. One thing that you can really do to help out is to like and to subscribe. I'm trying to assess the value in creating these videos. I want to give back to the community. I'm trying to decide if videos are the best way to do it. Likes really help, so do subscriptions. So if you feel like this has benefited you or any part in this series, whether the EDC kit or the TSA tips video, if it's helped you, let me know. Leave a comment, give me a like, subscribe. Really appreciate it, and I hope you have a really great day. Take care.